there it is. There you have it. Setting it off. The Maiden Voyage 52 pickup.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What's good,
How you
brother,
doing,
man?
man? How you doing?
Man, I'm great, man. How you, man?
Yo, I'm great. I'm grateful to say I'm great, you know?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. The whole gratitude, man. That's key. Off
Yeah, man.
top. Off top,
And more
man.
so, I feel like I've been maintaining that feeling by just diving in, we talked recently about this, just really using this time productively. And I
Yeah.
don't mean just, killing yourself working on just every every and anything. I'm talking about that real focused time on either things you've been wanting to build or enterprising off of ideas you already created and put into the world. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been I'm grateful for that, to be able to have this focused time, and
Yeah, man. Yeah, like I've been studying a lot of different stuff where people talk about, taking ownership of your whole 24 hours, the value of it, what your time is worth versus,
yes,
what somebody might pay you for it, you know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
Um, and yeah, when you take it back and you make that commitment to yourself to just find a way, to do what you have to do with it and build from there, man, so many things open up, you know?
So many, so
Yeah,
many. And I think it's more about too, especially for cats like ourselves, we got peeps all over the world, both men and women, who kind of been living off the grid on and off in some capacity for a long time and developed
absolutely.
different entrepreneurial skills and strategy. But I want to ask you, I feel like a big part of the strategy really is exactly what you said. Do what you do and be on it. Like,
Yeah.
these opportunities come, these doors open. I find myself there a lot where I remind myself, like, nah, bro, you tripping. You got to push forward and keep doing this. Otherwise, it will become stagnant.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people talk about I think I first heard it from Tony Robbins video. He's talking about burning your boats, meaning I think he was referring to the Romans, how when they would take on the beachhead, they would burn the boats as if to say, we're not coming back. We either gonna take over or we gonna die trying.
Wow.
And like we have to use their boats to get home after we won.
Wow.
um so yeah, yeah. And also I remember long time ago, man, building with CL Smooth. I had a show with him. I can't remember where it was. It was one of the few times I had a show with CL Smooth. But I remember talking, and he was talking about no plan B, and just doing it full time and going hard because one, you know yourself, two, you know your abilities and you believe in your talents, and you put all of that effort and that grind into that, and you don't need a plan B. You know what I'm saying? You make it happen one way or the other.
That's
And I ain't gonna front, man. For me, that's been an off and on process. You know what I'm saying? I kind of like Cool G Rap said in Road to Riches. You know what I'm saying? Um, doing odd jobs and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Jumping in and out of the gig economy. Just
no
trying to
doubt.
make sure I hold it down for the fam. And that there comes a point where you can build enough security for yourself doing that, or even if you don't, but you realize you can seize on opportunities as they come, and then just work the angles to the point where you can make it happen. You know what I'm saying? And it's never easy, and it's easier said than done, but it's necessary. And it just comes down to realizing the value in your body of work, the value in the things that you've built up to this point, even when you hit those bumps in the road where it's like, okay, you're past the point of no return. You know what I'm saying? Like I got a new song called The Way Out Is Through. And that's kind of what that's about. It's like, the way out is through. I'm gonna exit through the gift shop. I'm not going back. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. But think about it, the way to the next level for us, or the easiest way to the next level for us in what we're doing, are through the people that been supporting us this whole time.
Absolutely.
It's the direct, like, these are the people that been holding us up. These are the people that been, and if you've been doing it long enough, especially with technology, and you got your ecosystem going, you know who your supporters are. You know where your main bases are. You know
Hmm.
where, you could always go back to. And I think we're in a time now where, how do you curate all of those people, this experience now, for right now, digitally? There's a lot of people who are sitting at home more so than not, or in place more so than they've been probably forever. So how do we cater to that in this authentic way? But how do we communicate with our base to find out, like, what makes sense for them right now? Those are the
Right.
things
Yeah.
about too.
For sure. I mean, we all going through it. Uh, I'd started a Patreon recently. I'd been plotting and scheming on starting a Patreon for a minute, and once I started it, things were going smooth. I was giving them some early music, a little
Oh.
bit of video. You know what I'm saying? A little bit of like lyrics ahead of time, and then when COVID struck and kind of shook up the buildings and changed everything, it was like, man, and then on top of that, going through, family struggles, my mom passing in July, you know what I'm saying, amidst the COVID, not from COVID, but just, in the midst of all of that, you know what I'm saying, being sick in the hospital, not being able to see her, like visit and whatnot, just having to stay up on the phone until, things kind of took a turn for the worse. And it's like that whole time, it's like, obviously, you know, music and the art and the work sometimes to some degree takes the back burner.
Yeah, it does.
And but I say all that to say, the fans held me down during that time. Like I didn't lose any of the patrons from the lack of activity,
That's
even
dope.
amidst the crisis.
Wow.
To the point where when I went back, I was like, look, what I'm saying, I just want to thank y'all for holding it down. Here's some bonus material. But at the same time, if anybody needs to jump ship, please let this be your reason to do so. Please, but don't lose any sleep over it, because we all going through it right now. You know what I mean? But you're absolutely right. Like, and I think a lot of artists, even with social media, to some degree, it's a lonely road, and you're in that vacuum sometimes, depending on how big your camp is, how big your immediate team is. Like for
Agreed.
me, I do a lot of stuff on my own. Um, and you end up in that vacuum where sometimes it's hard to tell who's listening, even when people are listening. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ever do a show and the crowd is just quiet for some reason, even if whether it's half empty or even full, but just casual and quiet, and you rocking out and you doing what you do, but you're wondering in the back of your head, like how's this being received? And then
Yeah.
after the show, you'll get mad dap and mad love, like, yo, you killed it, yo, that was incredible. And I'm like, yeah, well, where was the noise? Where was the, what I'm saying? Where was the give and the take? So sometimes it goes down like that, but
Yeah. You know
all
what's
that
dope
just, you
about
got to
that?
trust yourself with it.
Two things about that specifically. I learned, and this was years ago, one of my mentors, at a show. I want to say this was, I don't want to give wrong credit, but this might have been Big Just. And
Mm,
we're at a show, and I felt exactly like that. Yo, the people weren't really vibing, they didn't feel it, da da da. And his gem was more like, nah, G, like I want to say were we in North Carolina? We were in North Carolina at like this skate park, Echo Unlimited type of
mm-hmm,
situation.
mm-hmm.
And it was dope, but it wasn't live like I was used. And he was like, nah, you gotta understand, man. Like these people are like chilling. They just went outside the blaze. They
Right,
skateboarding. They're not gonna jump up and down, but they love it.
right,
He did this. He said, yo, I guarantee, watch what happens when we're done and we go over to the merch table. And we did that, and then there the whole crowd was surrounding the merch. Yo, let's take pictures, chill, talk, build, autograph, selling merch, etc. And then fast forward, Elo Kush and I were in Portland,
Mm,
Maine. Portland, Maine, actually,
yeah,
Northeast, and we're vibing. And I know what Maine's like. I've been there. Maine is laid back, cool. There's nothing to like get crazy and rowdy about. We're in Maine.
mm-hmm.
We're down there in Canada. We're chilling, you know. And the people were very laid back there. Did the show, people were chilling, scattered all over the venue, like, just vibed out. Elo's like, yo, they hate us up here. I was like, are you kidding me? They love every moment of it. And when we get off stage, we're gonna walk right to the merch table and talk to everybody. And
Right.
and it was almost like deja vu of
You
that.
passed it down. You was on the other end of it.
But it taught me then, like, nah, you can't dictate how people consume it and enjoy it, you
Not at
know?
all.
But the thing is, you and I both know people don't front on real raw skill and talent, so
Nah.
if you're up there doing your thing and giving it up, people gonna feel that, even if it's not their particular genre style. That for the most part, you power through that by just doing what you do.
Yeah, you got to be the constant in that situation. Let the crowd be the variable, because I know depending on the situation, it might just not be that kind of vibe. Like as a DJ,
Exactly.
you're gonna read the room. As an MC, you got to do the same thing. So, always tell people like nobody owes you noise. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You gotta give them a reason to make noise, or just give them a reason to have a positive experience and respond. And it might not noise not might not be, the message for the day. You know what I'm saying? It really just might be a chill vibe scenario, especially,
Mhm.
some of the music is so jazz infused. You're not, you don't go and see a quintet and hear the saxophone like everybody say oh, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's just not that vibe. Like
Yeah.
you're talking about the chill show you did. I remember one time we did a show in Christiania. Christiania is like in Copenhagen. It's kind of like I always call it like a little Smurf village, because
Got
it's walled off and there's like signs on every entrance, no
Wow.
police, no cameras.
Wow.
So it's like a police-free zone. I don't know if it's still going down like that. And it
We
was
need
kind
that.
of like a sort of like a weed hash bazaar, to the point where
Mm,
there was like, like a street fair sort of situation, but then also they have venues inside where you could go. So we performed in Christiania. I think it was me and Edo G, and I can't remember which tour. I get the tours mixed up. Might have been Mass Influence, might have been Asheru, but
word.
it was around like late 90s, early 2000s. And like the crowd was so blazed that it wasn't really about noise. Everybody was just mad mellow, just enjoying the music. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's
And
that's part of MC. You mastering the ceremony. You got to master multiple kinds of ceremonies. You never know what kind of ceremony it's going to be.
exactly. Exactly. And most of all, you got to master your self ceremony by saying, yo, I'm going to give it up no matter
Yes.
what, because that's something I had to build up to too, where I fed so much off the energy of the people. If there was a small crowd, it was hard to get into it sometimes.
Mm.
Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so defeated, especially like early on traveling, Science of Life. We had like one or two records, and we're like
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of America somewhere doing a show, and there's like 12 people there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the next day, it's 150, and it's just like, oh, okay, thank you. And then it grows and grows, and as we get to the cities that just had more of a following, or we were working with people that just had more of an established event, it felt much more powerful. But I started to appreciate the intimate settings, because what I started to learn and really see is you could be in a room of 50 people or 500 people, and the 50 people impact is just more powerful because they really leave there with this personable experience, and
Mm-hmm.
you're just more connected in that way. It's like if
Yeah.
you're learning intimately, yeah, you're gonna learn more, and you're gonna leave with a lot more takeaways. So that was something that just stays with me to this day. Where it's like, nah, man, I don't care if there's two people, and I know that's a cliche saying, but no,
Nah, it's real though.
thing, yeah, that's a
It's
real.
real. It's like it's almost like we're in the political season now, and the campaign trail. You got some people that rock stadiums in an instance, and then some candidates they do the little what do they call them, the fireside chats, or the
Mhm.
what do they call it when the people are asking, the town hall meetings or whatever.
Yes.
And that's where you get the most out of the candidate, when you really had that intimate setting. And I kind of wrote a song about it, like Add a Cipher. The hook for Add a Cipher was 550, 500, 5,000 for that reason. I was like, look, we
Mm,
got five, we're gonna try to make it sound like 50. If it's 50, we're gonna try to make it sound like 500. 500, we're gonna try to make it sound like 5,000. Then I count
yeah,
down from five and see how loud the crowd get them kind of hyped, like I was coaching them up.
no
But
doubt.
I can relate, man, because sometimes, like, I used to always have that Outcast Elevators in the back of my mind, like doing this Hole in the Wall club. This shit here must stop. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, but this ain't gonna stop us. We just gonna continue. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah,
even if you're not on that major label level where you're getting, thousands upon thousands at a time, you kind of just make it up in volume and just rock out for whoever's with you. And it's a trade-off, man. It's a lot of times it's a trade-off in terms of ownership versus control. And sometimes that thing will manifest itself out into just, the volume of your audience and what you're doing to maximize the potential of it. But you really can't let that stress you when you're on stage, man. You just got to kind of go in every time,
no doubt, no
for
doubt.
sure.
And I think it's too. It's again, it's a journey that some people could take that jewel and hear it right as we're sharing it and be like, "Word, that's dope." But
Mm-hmm.
other people got to literally just feel it and go through it and experience it, and it just becomes real. And you just take heed to things like that. And it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
about protecting your creativity and you gotta wear a shield, man. You can't put yourself out there. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's real. It's real.
It is,
I
man.
want I wanted to ask you, Jay. What do you feel are the best ways for real, that you've been just like keeping yourself motivated in this time? And I asked this question. This is why I woke up this morning and I said, as much as I've been feeling good and motivated and being productive and taking care of my well-being and self and mental health, etc., I'm all over the place with my schedule. Like
Yeah.
I don't I'm like trying to shut off work at a certain time and unplug, and it's like I do that and then wind up working at 11 p.m. through the night, so speak to that. Speak to that, bro.
In terms of the motivation,
Yeah.
like whenever I get asked that in an interview, it always comes down to the feedback from the fans. And in these days and times, it usually manifests itself on social media more than anything. I don't have like a huge, huge, huge following,
Mm-hmm.
but because it's not that big, I'm able to respond a lot of times where people might not be expecting a response, or I'm able to see things because I'm not overwhelmed by it.
Got
So like, like for to take Facebook for example, I got my personal profile or whatever, and then the page you manage. And every now and then on the page, it'd be like, oh, the inbox is getting kind of full. Let me just run through it real quick. And it'll just be people like, yo, sometimes it's like, yo, what's up with a feature? I got a beat, you need beats, blah, blah, blah. But then every now and again, it'll be like, yo, I just wanted to say thank you for your music. Got me through some tough times. Been
mm,
listening to you for years, or just found out about you. I love those because it's like, what I'm saying? I'm still growing the base.
no doubt.
Uh, but like, or Instagram, when people, it'll always notify you when people throw you in the stories or whatever, or plug the new stuff, or
Mm-hmm.
and when you got like 13 to 15 records, every month there's an anniversary for something, and people are like, a lot of these blogs drop the anniversaries for this album or that album, and then you see the feedback and the reactions to it, and it's like, yo, man, that on one level keeps me going. Um, Reminding myself to listen to the music, like I got a line. I said, lay back, listening back to my old shit, old new shit, and brand new grown shit. Like just old young shit and brand new grown shit. Just in terms of, you know, people spend the most time with your first works. So people are always all about like your first two albums or your first two singles.
Totally.
And if you're an artist that's constantly putting out new music, sometimes that can get under your skin because you're thinking, all right, I'm improving, I'm making new stuff, and you still paying attention to my old stuff. But now you got to realize the older that music gets, the more time they've had to live with it.
Mm,
So it becomes, it's almost like they say, you have your whole life to make your first record and then a year to make your second record.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? By that same token,
Wow.
people have lived with your first album for your whole career, and they
Absolutely.
only have a few weeks to digest this new thing you just put out. And the only reason they really checking for the new thing, if they're up on you, is because they trust how your music makes them feel because of how your old stuff makes them feel. So you really got to kind of embrace that. And it's, I mean, low key, it's what keeps you on the road anyway. You might be promoting a new record, but
Yeah,
they're coming out for your old music. If your old music is classic like that, you know what I'm saying?
totally. Now,
So
I say that a lot. I say I'm doing a lot of my business today because of music I did 15, 20 years ago.
for
Definitely.
sure, absolutely. And that's part of that, the whole 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
In a way, like they say, 80% of your productivity comes from 20% of what you've done,
Hmm.
or 80% of your sales is from 20% of your base, or you know what I'm saying? And it's like, or 80%, yeah. So by that same token, you're constantly trying to add on, and your new stuff is basically you're feeding the 80 to expand your 20. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
you can't get mad at what your 20 likes. If your 20's been living with a record for 20 years, you just gotta, and that's the reason why as soon as you put out some merch, they cop it.
Yep.
As soon as you throw up a Patreon, they support. As soon as you come to their town, they're coming through. You gotta just embrace that
You
and
do.
celebrate that. Like a show is a celebration of the classics that they want to hear, and then you're also presenting new music that they might not be up on. And when you think back to the times where, like, I remember performing like songs like Them That's Not, uh for the people that don't really know titles, it's the one that kind of slows down and speeds up and slows down. Shout out to Grap Lover. But like, I remember performing that when it was new. Me and the DJ would go back and be like, okay, uh put on any beat and then like speed it up and slow it down and act like you're messing me up, like you're just kind of messing with me while I'm trying to rhyme. And the first two times we would do that, and I'd be like, "Yo, what are you doing?" Right? We had this kind of like play, right? And I'd be like, "You know what? The next song you play, I don't care what you do, I'm not going to stop rapping." And it would be Them That's Not. So it would speed up, and the crowd would go crazy because they'd never heard it before.
Got it.
But then as they, like after a while, it's kind of cool on tour. We would try to run that skit, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's about to do Them That's Not." They're, they know the song now.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now they want to hear the song just on the strength of the fact that it's the song. It's just kind of like Hush the Crowd. It's like they came to hear what they know, and you're giving them what they don't.
Absolutely.
So, but then eventually you become what they know. So it's like, yo, you really can't shake a stick at that. You can't take that for granted because you got something new that you want to let them know. You really got to embrace and celebrate what they came to hear. You know what I'm saying? Like I see a lot of old artists, like my elders, my OGs. I remember SOBs. I won't name the artist, but I remember he was like, "Oh, y'all want to hear the old shit, but I got this new joint." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even me in the crowd, I was like, "You want to hear the old shit?" You know what I'm saying? But
No.
not that the new shit wasn't dope, but it's just,
Yeah.
yo, give it. We'll take it all, but don't front on how you got here. You know what I'm saying? So by that same token,
There's a way to do both.
yeah, yeah. But when you talk about motivation, it's like I let people's appreciation for my old music motivate me to make new music for new people to appreciate and for old people to appreciate anew. You
No,
know,
no
so
doubt.
it's like, and it because the growth is natural, but the foundation is still evident. You know what I'm saying? I'm not all of a sudden doing polka or a dancehall record. You know what I'm saying? It's still my interpretation of what hip hop is, was, and has grown to be. So it's there's gonna be a congruence there that people will appreciate if they fuck with my old shit, even if it's very, very, very different or even more modern. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. No
So,
doubt. Yeah, and I just think that resonates with me because there was a time where my old shit, especially the early Science of Life music, we were at such a early stage of learning production, how to record ourselves, etc., and then combining that with crew that we've been working with who was seasoned in that. So when I listen back I hear a lot of imperfections and errors and things I would change, and
Oh man.
then I start shutting up because people would say that, yo, this is a classic. Oh, this did this for me and that. And I said, you know what? Yo, let the people decide for themselves. Like, don't interrupt that. That's like when you know, bomb on stage to yourself and then you get off stage and everyone's like, yo, that was amazing. Don't shut it down for them.
Mm-mm.
Let them have that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yo.
And then I'll watch the game tape and refine it for the next one, you
In
know?
fact, there was a show you did,
Mm-hmm.
and it might have been like it was the obviously it was the latest time I'd seen you because it was that present show.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd seen you before in Atlanta at Sensi. Rest in peace to Sensi. That was a dope venue in East Atlanta Village.
Sensi.
And a lot of Atlanta venues are biting the bullet off of COVID, you know, and that's a you know whole nother conversation, man. You know, but this I was like, yo, I remember the song that you did at Sensi that I wanted to hear, and I think the show might have been in New York or something. It might have been with Susio. I'm not sure, but
Yeah. It might have been, was it that Rich Medina show?
it could have been, man. I mean, we've done a few together, but I just remembered the whole time watching your set. Like, I want to hear that joint that he did at Sensi where he's like, "Stop eating watermelon." You know what I'm saying? You know exactly the song I'm talking about because I think I ran up on you after the show, like, "Yo, what happened to the stop eating chicken, stop eating watermelon?" song? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah, that's how it is. Like it's always. I remember there was the old Simpsons episode where you know Homer was like screaming at a like a famous old band, uh, and he was like, "Get to the working overtime part." It was like they were singing "Taking Care of Business,"
No doubt.
and he was heckling them so bad that they had to fast forward to that part of the song. It was like, man, come on, just let the set be the set. You know what I'm saying? But
Now,
yeah.
this also reminds me of a time, I won't name the artist involved, but
Mm-hmm.
it was in real time, celebrating a classic legendary group, and one of the members were there, but the group wasn't together anymore, and the audience wanted him to rock some of them jams and just kind of like, you know, it was a celebration for it, and he was like, nah, I got new joints.
Yeah, man.
Refused
It happens. It
all
happens.
new stuff, but then was upset backstage that the crowd didn't really give. And I'm like, yo, man, hush the crowd. Like, you know, like,
They want to hear what they want.
yeah, man. And at the same time, it's like, it's a celebration for that.
It
So
is.
for them to walk in this door, they kind of was expecting that. So it's like, if you weren't gonna do that, you probably should have told them you can't do the show, you know. But
Yeah.
those are the moments that I learned from, where it's like I get his point because he's in the moment. There's stuff going on behind the scenes that's just not cool.
Right, right. Especially with a group.
And yeah, so I get where he's coming from. He's like, yo, things are not right, and I don't want to connect myself to this right now. So I'm here to do my thing, and he was in a transitional phase. So it's like, wow, you know, those are the moments for real. I learned from those moments.
Let me ask you, have you ever had a situation? Because I mean, I've been a solo artist pretty much my whole life. But you coming from a group, you know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever had a situation where the group material, where like you kind of wanted to separate yourself from it, or were you always able to sort of embrace that era?
It's, you know what? That's a great question. I feel like my first answer would be I never thought about it at first until later. In the beginning, naturally, I mixed it up because I knew that people knew certain records. I'm going to mix that in a set, even if it's just a verse and a hook. That was usually one of my show techniques. I'm going to put on probably one of the more popular records first. So it's like that was the way I could, if you're in the back by the bar, not really paying attention, if you're and I know people are here for this, I'm going to read the crowd and I'm going to put that record on to set it off, even if it's like pulling out one of my trump cards early.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of
Yeah.
like spades. And I'm not a master. I'm very much a late bloomer. You know what I'm saying? I gotta really
Yeah.
be even more humble than I think I'm nice when it comes to spades. But
I think I'm nice, but I'm sure people are way nicer. So,
I gotta bring a partner to the spot, man,
no
and
doubt, no
like
doubt.
put the skills to the test. But like just when I first learned, the rules and a little bit of the strategy behind spades, it was like, okay, it's kind of like setting up a show. Obviously, you saving your smash hits for the end,
Yes,
but when you figure out how many books you want, you got to come out with a banger just to make sure that,
exactly.
what I'm saying, like whoever's sitting at the bar, they're gonna come to the stage. You know what I'm saying? You got to make sure that like whoever's, if they on a bathroom break or whatever, or if somebody's just coming in, let them know. Or if they want to try to go out and hang out until it's time for you to rock, you had that one joint that's like, okay, this
Yeah,
is the song that lets you know, bring your ass back to the stage. It's about to go down. Even if you got some new stuff that you want, what I'm saying, see what you're cutting. Like you might be cutting diamonds, so you give them like a new record. That's kind of like, what I'm saying, just throwing out a low card to let your partner cut. You know what I'm saying?
oh
But
yeah,
then at the same time, you got them, you got the big joker in the back. You just holding on to that, like, all right, and I know I got to save this. And then you ever notice? What do you think about this? Let me ask you this. What do you think about the fake encore? Because it's like always been a running joke when I go to shows. Like an artist will do, say they got like their top 5 songs, right?
the greatest question ever. But go ahead.
Formulaically, they might come out with the one of those bangers, like I was talking about, to set the show off, to let you know that it's about to go down, right? And they're saving, say that they put another one of the bangers in the middle, obviously, just in case there's a lull in the new stuff, or what I'm saying, with it, like the favorites that they want to do, but people might not really be. They had that one banger in the middle, and then they might save, you know, 3 songs at the end, and they'll do one of them, and that's like a huge joint they could end on that night. But at
Yeah.
the same time, wait, you didn't do those other two, and the other two are even bigger, and you fronting like the show's over. You coming back for an encore.
Yep.
They want to hear them other 2 songs. Like, what do you think of that?
I think it's great. It's why, because shout out to the metal face villain. This guy
Oh,
never wanted to do the encore because I'm the villain and I want
right,
people to get mad. I'm out. I plot shows like robberies, in and out, 1, 2, 3, nobody's please, right?
right, okay,
So I would always try to convince, just do the fake encore, like fuck it. Whatever the last 2 songs are, don't do them and leave and come back and do them. And you know what I'm saying? And that's how I
right.
try to, he'd be like, all right, word, I'm gonna do that. And then
That's dope.
but it
That's
was
dope.
always like, no encore. No, what are
That's
you
dope. Cause
doing?
like I would always like I would see an artist and the 2 songs you waiting for them to do all night,
Yes.
they would do the other one in front on those 2 and act like it's over. And you're like, come on, man. We know it's Christmas Eve right now. We know you coming back out to do the actual smash hits that got you the show to begin with. Like me, what I would do is I would keep my biggest features for the encore. So I would do like my big songs. I would end it because I wanted, obviously, I can't get away. I've never, unless one of the turntables was broken, I've never done a show and not ended with bragging rights.
No
But
doubt.
then, like, or them that's not. Usually I end up with like bragging rights or them that's not. But what I can do if I'm gonna do an encore, I can hold like the Handsome Boy Modeling School feature, The Truth,
Got it.
or the Wu-Tang meets indie culture joint, you know what I'm saying? Give It Up. A lot of people know that song.
Yep.
And like I'll come out and like I'll set the encore off for one of those. So it's like, all right, it's a big feature. So people recognize the joint and they feel like they're getting bonus material because I didn't do it that night. And then
Yeah.
I'll maybe go into like a deep album cut on top of that. You know what I'm saying?
See, we care. We care.
Yeah.
But I'm
It's a
realizing
craft.
creatives out there,
It's a craft.
i.e. villainy, who's like, nah, son.
But nah, it just always be funny to me. Like they be like, "Good night, everybody," and that they leave the stage, but they're peeking from behind the curtain. They just wait, and I'm like, "Come on, man, just do the joint. If you go do an
That's
encore,
the thing. He does that and leaves for real.
right,
He's not peeking behind the chair. He's like, good night, peace.
right, right,
Like, but to your point, yeah, I felt like there's always a way to engage and give that added value, you know, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, wow, like, damn, and how they did that was dope. You
Mm-hmm.
know, one of the things we would do just as Science of Life, we would enter in on a classic song, whether it's a jazz or soul or funk record or whatever we were just inspired by at the time collectively, just
Yeah.
playing records in the studio, whatever. It's like, oh man, that joint, I just want to play that in the car, you know? And
Yeah.
so whatever those joints were, we would start with that and end with that and just enter the stage and leave the stage with those type of joints,
Like somebody else's music.
somebody else's music.
Got you. Got you. Got you.
Dexter Gordon joint or, you know, a Curtis Mayfield joint or whatever we were
Yeah.
feeling at the time. It was like, yo, we putting this on. You know, we leave into Patrice Rushen because we
Right.
just talking about Feel So Real and whatever, you
Some
know.
walk-off music.
Exactly.
Some traveling
And
music.
another thing too is we were talking about the spades, another technique in spades. If I got big joker, little joker, all the major trump cards, I'm looking at the rest of the crew like, yo, I'm not waiting to the end. Boom,
Right. True.
boom, and I'm
True.
gonna drain you of
Get
all.
these books now. Get them out the way.
But not even get them out the way. I'm taking all the spades off the table. So now, and then I can
Ah.
even see who's who. You know, so now it's like, oh, you ain't got no more spades. You ain't got no more spades. You throwing out low card. You didn't even try to challenge this. So either you don't know how to play or you don't got a card that could beat this. And
See, that's the levels. That's the levels. I'm taking notes right now because that's not even in my repertoire. That little tactic and strategy right there.
don't,
But it
because
will be next time I play.
waiting to the end, I learned the hard way. Sometimes in spades, waiting to the end, depending on what your hand is the worst thing you can do. Like it's the worst. And it seems like, yo, at the end, boom. But nah, sometimes if you don't have certain cards and you don't play them, I got uncles and aunts who are like counting cards. They already know, yo, there's only 2 aces left. And he already threw his ace and died. And if he had it, he would have did this 2 moves ago. And it's just like, whoa. So yeah, I've been around G's who just talk about spades all day long.
That right there is bringing more value to the podcast than everything we've spoken about so far. Because usually when people talk about spades, it's either they're really good and people they've played with are really not. But nobody ever goes into actually, I've never really heard like game theory on spades. People are just like, yo, you better not cut me. You better not sandbag. You better not renege. And it's like, you don't ever really hear the little nuances and the tactics like that. Like if I was talking chess with somebody, we could get into all kinds of stuff about, forks and fianchettos and all of that. But you'll never really hear like spades game theory, you know what I'm saying? You're only gonna get that on 52 pickup, and it happens to be a card game, which is why it's a damn card game that we agreed upon for the podcast. You know what I'm saying? So that's beautiful.
You know what's funny, Jay? I asked the wife, yo, you know what 52 pickup is? She said, of course. I'm the only one who didn't easily. I'm like, oh, it's a card game, right?
So you see, that would have been fun, man. That would have been fun. Like if she'd kind of like indoctrinated you to that or whatever, because it's
that would have been hilarious.
I did it to my kids once. I remember when I was teaching, I think I did it to the students once. I remember like one of like games like that. As a teacher, I think a lot of teachers have done this before, but they'll have a fake test where the very top it says read all the questions before you begin. And it'll be like maybe like 12 or 15 questions. And the last question, pardon, let me just dead that. The last question will be like, do not answer any of these questions. Turn your paper in blank. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And it's really about like following instructions and taking directions.
All the questions.
So they like you got people that write the whole thing and they get so mad at the end. And then I put a twist on it one time.
Wow.
When I was because I did it both in Brownsville and in Bushwick, but I think one of them spots I put a twist on it where like number 3 was like wave at the teacher, and like number 5 was stand up and sit down. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of letting me know right there who didn't read the beginning where it said don't like read all the questions.
I never saw you stand up and sit down. Or you took way too long to stand up and sit down.
Right. So like by the time people's like every now and then there'll be a few kids that don't write anything down because they read the top and they read all the way to the bottom before they started. But it's just like a lot of them that get vexed, and it's like it's just fun to watch. You know what I mean? It's just that's something you do like towards the end of the year when it's just hot. You know, like in the summer and all the work is done. You're just kind of having fun.
That's a dope exercise, period, especially for shoot our young people, because I feel like that's kind of what the state exams do. You know, it tricks you on purpose, and it
Oh
has,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So it's like if you kind of you're putting them in the training grounds with those type of
They
exercises.
testing your test taking abilities as opposed to
They're
the
like, you
actual
know what?
subject
I'm
matter
reading
knowledge.
everything.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. And
Yeah.
that's that's kind of like life too, man. Because when you take that time to read the fine print, sometimes you can opt out of things that you really shouldn't have been involved with to begin with. When it's kind of like situational awareness. When you read the whole room before you get comfortable, you can figure out if this is where you need to be or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like for comprehension, no matter what you're reading, you don't want to just kind of skim through the beginning until you get into it. You want to use the beginning to get into it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just one of them things, man. But yeah, now 52 pickup was dope. I remember I'll never forget. I can remember like the sunlight in the room when my grandma did that. I can remember her chair. She had this crazy, it looked like an Archie bunker chair, but it was like blue and brown and flowery, but it was that same kind of shape, you know what I'm
No
saying?
doubt. No doubt. Yo,
Uh
Jay, I was gonna say, should you kind of like drop what it is? Because I know plenty of people know what 52
yeah,
pickup.
yeah. So all right. So we agreed to call the podcast 52 pickup because I had this idea and it kind of came to me in a flash because your whole idea behind this was the same way we just have dope phone conversations when we catch up.
Exactly.
And then like, and it's not just you, but a lot of the OGs I talk to, we'll be talking and they'll be like, yo, this should be a podcast. This is crazy. This, what I'm saying? Just a valuable, fun, what I'm saying? Just productive ass conversation where it's just, it's just the natural build, you know what I'm saying? Where everybody, where all parties involved, it's mutually beneficial. Everybody comes out with something, you know what I'm saying? Everybody is able to get something off of their chest. It's like one of the things I tell my kids, uh, constantly whenever, especially when it comes time to remind them. And I don't remember exactly where I got the quote, but it's better to understand and be understood. Like if two people are seeking to be understood, neither of them will understand. But if two people are seeking to understand, they'll both be understood.
Word.
You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? And them convos where it's the difference between somebody who's listening so that they can, wait till you finish and get something off versus listening to comprehend and really digest what you're saying because they care about what you're talking about. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? So like,
absolutely.
brothers like you, just a lot of my friends, man, especially, as I get long in the tooth, I find myself in those conversations where it's like, yo, I'm really glad we took the time to just sit down and build an exchange because so many jewels were dropped that it was like, and that's when it hit me. It's like 52 pickup,
Yeah, man.
just picking up jewels. And
Picking
the
up.
cool thing about 52 pickup, right? All right, so the game itself, if you want to play this with your friends that have never heard of it, and it's wild. I looked on Wikipedia
Yeah.
and it said it's a game because I wanted to, I always had to fact check and then I had to do the little search or whatever. But it was like it's a game involving one person who knows and one person who doesn't know. And it's like exactly. And so 52 pickup is you ask somebody if they want to play a card game. You want ask them if they ever play 52 pickup if they want to play, and if you pique their interest and they're like yeah, then you take the cards and you're like, all right, a deck of cards is 54 cards. So you're like, all right, well, first we got to take the jokers out, right? 52. Okay, you ready? And then you take the cards and you throw them all over the room. You like just throw them in the air like confetti and just let them drop all over the room. And you be like, pick it up.
Pick up.
I mean, obviously, some folks are gonna be like, hell no, but whatever. So,
So don't go too
maybe
far if there's a person that probably won't do it. Cause
yeah, but if you find somebody this game that can get the joke, one of the and I was telling you like one of the blessings of the game, after the whole laugh factor and the oh man, you got me, you know what I'm saying, is that some people use it to find things when they lose things in a room.
Mm.
You can take a deck of cards and just throw them all over the room. And as you're picking up the cards, you find what you were looking for.
Yep.
And I remember I was telling you, I think I saw something to that effect on a really old Nickelodeon show
Yeah.
back in the Daredevil and the You Can't Do That on Television era, the
Yep.
really old Nickelodeon. Like I'm dating myself and I'm taking some people back.
Yep.
But there was another show called Pinwheel. It was like a really, really like a kiddie show, almost like Nickelodeon Sesame Street to some degree.
Looked it up. I looked it up.
Yeah, and these I remember the hobo bugs, and I remember the human that was on with the hobo bugs did that where she like threw a bunch of cards and they had to find them. And this is like again, at grandma's house, had to be like 6, 7, 8 years old watching this, and it still just stuck with me. It's one of them things, you know what I'm saying? Old as I am now, but yeah, it just felt like a cool name for this thing of ours because one, I already know if I'm building with you, there's gonna be jewels dropped, and also two, you never know what you're gonna find. Like the convo, we let the convo go. Like I think we spent the majority of the time just now talking about show theory and indie artist theory and OG perspectives and things of that nature. And that's not what we talked about last time we spoke. We ain't talking about none of that. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what this is. We can cut this out and let it be the promo or whatever. But it's just two brothers building. We can bring other people into it at our leisure. And we both on a wavelength that's similar enough to relate, but different enough to exchange ideas and definitely have something to add. So man, always a pleasure, bro. Always a pleasure.
Always. And I gotta leave on this note. Buster T.I.
Oh man, can you believe that? Like, yo, what's wild to me is
you see how Bust bullied T.I. into.
I loved it, man. He's giving me very, very much Tracy Morgan, New York vibes with that.
No, because it was like, because he's right. It don't matter.
But see, my thing is this, man. Shout out to T.I. and shout out to Buster. But if I'm not mistaken, T.I. came at this whole thing like on some humble New York shit. And I understand that. You know what I'm saying? As a New Yorker in Atlanta, and I know you can relate, spending a lot of time in Atlanta yourself with being a New Yorker. And just like hip hop historically, New York is obviously the Mecca and the root. But New York got thwarted by its own hubris on some industry shit, if you really want to, look at it sociologically. Because I remember coming up, obviously, just the nature of New York in itself being like, considered the first city, the port for the country, and historically being the spot like all the immigrants would come in and then spread out throughout the country, and like the shipping would come in and then spread out throughout the country. You know what I'm saying? Like New York to Chicago. The reason they call Chicago the second city was because Grand Central Station would basically go from New York to Chicago. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, all right, now you got Penn Station going north and south. You got Grand Central Station going east to west. And as the West was expanding, New York was still that route. So with the invention of hip hop, New York being that route, but obviously expanding internationally. But before internationally, it expanded, to the west, to the south, to the Midwest, to the deep south, to the Wild West. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And you have all of these scenes building their own scene, making their own voice. But New York always had that stigma of, but don't take it too far from the root. It's like, no, we're going to take it far from the root and we're going to expand on it in our own way. And you're going to like it. And if you don't like it, the rest of the world's going to like it. And now you're second fiddle to the point where New York commercial radio ended up jocking other people's sounds to the point where it got to the point where now New York radio sounds like the South. You don't even hear New York rappers in New York for a time unless they were like Jay-Z, Nas, Biggie, Buster. You know what I'm saying? On the indie level, I remember thinking, and New York had its cliques and we had a lot of unity and a lot of different venues and a lot of different massives that would come together and support each other.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, yo, the way the West holds each other down, you know what I'm saying? From like Living Legends to High Road to you name it, right?
Yeah.
The way the South holds each other down because they feel like they have to the point where Andre comes through and says the South has something to say at the Source Awards, and that creates all of this tension, right? I get why T.I., you know, even all of these years later, all of this richness and fame and success later, still got that chip on his shoulder, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna call out New York, and we gonna do, since we're gonna do this versus battle, anybody that want to come test me, holla at the King of the South. And it's like, yo, I get that. And I can't remember who he called out at first.
I can't either.
But whatever, that it's irrelevant now because the way the whole Busta T.I. thing went, right? And it's like, yo, you know, me, humble, lovable shoe shine boy, underdog, J Live. I'm looking at this like Clash of the Titans, you know what I'm saying? As a DJ, I know T.I. got bangers. I know Busta got bangers. But like, come on, you know what I'm saying? Like, so when Busta hollered back,
though, right? You heard the latest stipulations?
Well, I know I think I heard something where T.I. was saying that he don't want nothing like leave the 90s out of it. And to me, I'm like,
his album dropped in 2001. He said, yo, Bus, you can't play nothing.
Nah, that's not how that works. It's like that old commercial. That's not how any of that works. You know what I'm saying?
Jay, when he said, because they were on IG like live together.
Oh, no, I missed that.
Convo. And soon as he said it, you know what Bus said?
What?
He said, let's not even waste no time. Yes, I accept. Ooh. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. Because every era, I never left.
Bus a GOAT, man. Bus is a, I think I saw where he was like, yo, we both kings, but I'm a god or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, man, even if you're not considering Leaders of the New, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're not considering all of the features with Tribe and Dilla and all of that, right? Even if you just want to go from Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Could See, right? Everything Remains Raw.
Go to The Coming. Well, yeah, The Coming.
I'm just saying, like, from there all the way to all of these different DEFCON 5, where there's 10 years left and there's 8 years left and extinction level events, and you know, there's only 2 years left, and then like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that alone, like, man, I was just thinking before I even heard any of this, like, a lot of my Busta, I got a lot of singles on vinyl, and it's weird now because, you know, I'm in that era where, you know, I rock heavy off of streaming. I use Tidal as my weapon of choice just because, one, I like the fact that it's black owned. Two, I feel like the sound quality is up there. Three, I know, you know, even though it's still, artists don't get enough for streaming, I know that they pay a little bit more than the other ones, you know what I'm saying? So I rock with Tidal, and then it syncs with Serato, so that's always been my weapon of choice. But I got a lot of CDs that I haven't burned to the crates, like to the digital crates. And a lot of them, you know, I got a lot of the Busta singles. Like, I got enough Busta to rock a whole show. But the album cuts, the deep cuts on the CDs, bro.
Yeah, man.
I gotta really, like, just going back through that catalog alone, like him, artists like him, Redman, you know, like Redman especially, man. When you go, every now and then I'll go back to like Doc's the Name or something and just rock the spot and put Rock the Spot on repeat for like a half hour, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, yo, man, you really got to appreciate these kinds of bodies of work. You know, for me, it's like when you go to like when you consider Miles Davis or something, right? My wheelhouse for Miles Davis is all the stuff he did with Gil Evans. So I'll go from like Miles Ahead, Sketches of Spain, Quiet Nights, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm forgetting my favorite. Why am I forgetting my favorite? I know I'm missing something. But whatever, that's beside the point. Point is, when you really go back into those catalogs like that, and that's the beauty and the value of it, you know what I'm saying? That's why, like, I'm really hoping, you know, I think, you know, if I'm not mistaken, De La's catalog still isn't streaming yet, or did they?
Streaming, no.
Still not, right? And that's like, I'm thankful that I you know, I still own those things.
Likewise. At
my disposal, and that's, you know, the value of buying music. Hello. It's like, yo, you know, people talk about, and this is like a far reach, and excuse my mind the way it works, but people talk about, all right, after the election, if there's not a peaceful succession of power, do we really have a government? What happens to the grid? If it comes time to go off the grid and there's no more streaming, then you only get to listen to what you bought and you own. What happens if Spotify goes out of business on some ill? You know what I'm saying? What happens if Tidal just decides? What happens if the advertising gets so ridiculous that like kind of like SoundCloud? Like I'm not really on the SoundCloud, man. Like SoundCloud with ads is
Been on SoundCloud since that whole yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to everybody on SoundCloud. No disrespect, but like my son has a lot of his beats on SoundCloud, and I was like, yo, I had to cop premium just so I wouldn't have to hear ads for his beats. Yeah. But other than that, other than rocking with him, I'm not really on there like that. You know what I'm saying? But my point is just, yo, like social media, all these platforms, right? Before the algorithm switched up, back when it was chronological and everybody was really eating off of the blog era, before the blog era, ate itself and monopolized into the corporate thing.
Yes.
And like when you could really promote stuff chronologically and take full advantage of that, right? Before the pay for play and really before they really monetized the ad space, which was the whole purpose of it to begin with, which is understandable. It's their platform, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But when people were rocking off of that, and then even to this day, I hear some people saying like, "What's the point of your own website when there's all these socials?" It's like, nah, you need your own platform.
You do.
So that if somebody pulls the plug or changes the rules, or if the crowd goes somewhere else, like if Facebook gets MySpaced, or like, if MySpace gets Friendster, you know what I'm saying? Like we can go back. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like when whatever's hot right now, all this subscription-based stuff, what happens when somebody pulls the plug if you don't have control of that? It's just kind of like, as a producer, we know the value of ownership, but as a consumer, I feel like the consumer might not know the value of ownership nowadays. Mm-hmm. And I hope they don't get a rude awakening in that regard, because I'm not selling my record collection. Yeah. My internet, if I don't pay for internet, as long as I got electricity, I'm never going to run out of music. And that's, what I'm saying? I'll just thumb through this vinyl sometimes, and it's just like, man, I'm just so thankful that I had that kind of discretionary income since I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. To have these singles with these remixes and these instrumentals that aren't streaming.
No doubt.
And these acapellas that aren't streaming, exactly. That I can, pull up at will and do what I want with. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, and that's kind of why, like, I don't know, how do you navigate the nature of the business now versus, the adaptations you've had to make as we came up?
Yeah. I feel like I learned and came into it online in a sense of, even though things weren't thriving online yet, I could remember before Science of Life signed a deal with Subverse Music, which was a label spearheaded by Big Just. Mm-hmm. He sat us down. We were all building in a room in Jersey, my man Kane's studio, actually. And he was like, yo, if we're not talking about moving towards eventually people, if we're in this digital space and we're not talking about eventually moving to people going to our website, our digital real estate online and downloading the music and getting the merch directly from us, then what are we doing? Because, right. And this was 98, he was saying this. This was 1998. He was like, yo, G, if you think, basically CDs are going to be here forever, you're bugging. Right. CDs are going to be here, bro. He said, yo, music, I want to say, yeah. He said music's going to be a subscription, blah, blah, blah. Movies, and Big Just has always been one of those guys, no BS, who he says things so early sometimes it sounds crazy. Like, visionary. Sounds like, come on, bro. Like, what? In 07, top of 07, I moved back from the West Coast. I get back to New York, Jersey, tri-state, and I link with Big Just because he's visiting at the time in the area. And we link up, me, him, and Kane, and Just is just in our faces like, yo, shoot everything. Content, just creative content, just have arsenals of content.
Mm.
Companies need content to monetize their ideas, but it's lifestyle content. It's just shoot anything that you think and I'm like, what are you talking about? Shoot anything? Like that doesn't make sense, bro. Content is king. No, it's not. I'm king. Da-da-da.
He's
So I'm
ahead of the
like
game.
totally not hearing him. And then as it happened in the past, years unfold, and I hear just as I'm seeing it, and stayed on the cusp. But I say all that to say, early on, you know, we entered in that conversation. He said, "Yo, when y'all go home tonight, check your email." It was the first time, checked email, clicked the link, Real Player opened up, and a whole song that we did at the studio that night played. And we sat there listening to a whole song,
Real
and
player.
wheels are turning. And we said, wow, we could send our songs to anyone in the world at the push of a button right now. And that was like the beginning of us like, yo, we got to be on this. This is the future. This is where. So I'll credit him and say, yo, he put us on that early in the sense of there was only 2 years before that we dropped our first records with Fondulum and Barbito.
Mm.
But at that stage, yeah, we want some entrepreneurial, like, yo, we got to master this tech space, get your digital real estate. And we moved to Atlanta based off of I won't even get into the full, this is a whole nother conversation. But we moved to Atlanta based off one of these groundbreaking ideas we collectively came about. And the whole time there, the first 2 years, we rocked our creative lives like a 9 to 5. Wake up
Mm.
in the morning, work out together, whatever, shower, come to the table, eat breakfast together, have a meeting, go into your spaces. R.I.P. Willoughby, he would on Photoshop and the graphic designs. Invisible Hands, Four Winds, you're on the beats, the ASR X Pro, the ASR 10, blah, blah, blah. And then John Robinson, you're on the website stuff. You're learning Front Page and Dreamweaver, the
Wow.
retail calls.
Taking
Yo,
it
at
back.
one point, Jay, I knew damn near in every major city who was the retail buyer and the name of the popular stores that sold hip hop in those cities.
That's dope.
I
That's
was
dope.
calling, and you know who gave us that idea? Just. He said, "Yo, Sai, when they hear your voice on the phone, they gonna order more records, bro. You call." And I did,
Mm.
and it worked. It was like, yo, they was like, "Is this?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it's me."
Yeah, yeah, it's
You
a
know,
distinct
just
voice.
kind
You
of,
can't, you can't forget, you can't mistake the voice.
yo, it allowed me to like build this cool network to just kind of help the label sell records. Where it
That's
was like,
dope.
yo, I'm doing these retail calls. Oh, we gonna be in Orlando? I'm calling the stores before we get there and show up. And yo, my man is at such and such store. We gotta go through there and da da da. And it just became a technique for me. And early on, that's what gave me love for the business. So I'm
That's
passionate
huge.
about doing this stuff.
That's huge, man. That's huge. Like I know when I was coming up, you know what I'm saying? Like you talking 94, 95.
Hmm.
Just off an internship at Rorschach and George Somers was pretty much holding down all of that on the business side. You know what I
Wow,
mean?
you
And
saw.
then when the singles were popping
Hmm.
and he brought Wes Jackson in, who would later start Seven Heads,
Yep.
and he was holding down the promo side. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, I was a little bit spoiled in that regard where, what I'm saying, I had the team was kind of working behind the scenes and I was just, rappity rapping.
No
And
doubt.
I had to pay attention to some degree, and I'm glad that I did pay attention to some degree because when I went on to go, get off on my own, I was able to pick up some of that slack to some degree, or at least know what good work looked like to be able to hire people. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be cosign or whoever the case may be.
Totally.
But you know, like that's invaluable. That time that you got to really get your hands dirty on the business side and
Yeah,
make the
man.
calls and be the rep that talk to all of those people. Like shout out to my man DL from Eddie L and DL. Um, my man Tall Man Phantasm, we used to call him Johan. The
Yes.
people on the retail side of things at Seven Heads, or just like the various labels that I've been on, whether it be, the staff at Penalty, the staff at Ryko, going to Caroline's Distribution and seeing how that go,
Hmm.
going to Sandbox Automatic and
Yeah.
dropping off or signing records and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I
Class.
did get my hands dirty on some level,
Of course.
but like being on the calls and hollering at the reps directly, like I wouldn't meet those reps until we were on tour doing in stores and stuff. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? So being like the man behind the scene, or as West used to say, the man behind the register, that's invaluable, man. That's a great look, and it translates to this era now, to where
It
if
does.
you're indie, you have to be that guy unless you have the capital to hire staff, whether they be on salary or contracted out. But for the most part, a lot of us are rocking like armies of one right now. And
Yes.
you really got to know the landscape in terms of all of the different revenue streams and how you're going to utilize them.
Hmm.
And there's 10 different ways to do the same thing. You just got to pick the way that's right for you.
Exactly.
But be mindful that that's always going to evolve. Like it's evolving to this day. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people are putting me up on websites that are tools that I can use in ways that I didn't even think of before. And it's like, oh, somebody can do that for you? Oh, word.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Really?
I'm
You know
about
what
to
I'm saying?
drop a gem right now. This is for you if you haven't done it, but this is for the people listening.
What's this?
This is a company called Gallup, right? And they
Okay.
do these strength analysis.
Mm,
So basically, you take a series of questions for about 40 minutes. And, there's a fee, I think, for the first top five strengths.
okay.
And then if you want to go to the full blown, I think it's like $50, but the first is maybe 15 to 20. But it's almost like your entrepreneurial horoscope in a lot of ways. It allows you
Oh,
to really understand for real who are you as a person. Like for a long time, I knew that I'm not a finisher. Like people feel like, oh, come on, bro, you get it. No, the reason I'm a finisher because I recognized 12 years ago that I wasn't, and I work with finishers to get it.
ah,
So Jay Rawls is a finisher. Carlos Nino is a finisher. Lewis Parker is a finisher. PVD is a finisher. Chief is a finisher. J Live is a finisher. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah. That's a gem right there that I'm listening to. I'm thinking, oh.
it's now it's like I recognized that early and I said, yo, I'm always having these great ideas to set off, but it's like, I get stuck. I don't finish. Let me
Ah,
collab with people who get it done. And we put that energy together and bring it to the finish line. And that was something that came out. And I recently did this strength test. That came out that, yo, you're great. I always used to, say, yo, I'm the brainstorm king. Put me in the room with a bunch of people at a table. We gonna come with some dope ideas.
see,
But it pulled that out too. You're a strategic thinker. You like to sit and pull out ideas with peers who are like-minded. You're a person who, if you have a theme to work with, you could take it and run with it and build from that theme. You just need a little piece to start with to say, okay, word, I'm in alignment, go. My whole life, that's how Science of Life worked. We never talked about the music. It was like, yo, what's the title? What's it about? Okay, cool. Turn our backs, go into the corner. But when we recorded, it sounded most of the time like we spoke a long time about it. So
mm,
that was part of just our connectivity outside of the music, how much we hung together. Four Winds being my brother, but Willoughby being someone we met moving to Jersey in high school and then became a brother. And I feel like there was a point, shoot, I could count like 5 to 7 years where I don't even remember 3 days that we didn't see each other. You know what I'm saying? It was like we hung every day,
right,
so that's what brought us together. It was like we don't got to talk about the music. We're connected as people, as
right.
beings, as
See,
humans. I know what you like. I know what you hate. Like I'm on it, and we were on that
fam.
wavelength. Yeah,
For
bam.
sure. See, that's beautiful that you had that in music. Because one of my things, not that it was an Achilles heel or anything like that,
Mhm.
um, the people that I did business with, I would see every day. But my brother's brothers, you know what I'm saying? Like my yellow seed, my black seed, you know what I'm saying? Like my core, they weren't into music like that. You know what
Got
I'm saying?
got
So
it.
it's like even back in school, in college, we would hang tight every day, but then okay, I'm going on the road real quick. I'll be back. You know what I'm saying? We don't have the kind of budget where I have like an entourage and a massive I can bring everybody on stage.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
don't have the kind of schedule where they can just pick up and leave and roll with me like that. You know what I'm saying? So I would come back, but at the same time, it was like, even after school, this became my thing in my career. One went on to be a lawyer, one went on to be a teacher, one went on to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, doing
Absolutely.
all these different things. So it's like I have that camaraderie and family with the people that I see every day, but at the same time, this isn't what they do. So to have like your squad, kind of like
And
making records house, you know what I'm saying? Like you go there and it's just like, man,
yeah,
this
man.
is
Yeah.
it's like a hip hop airport, like a hub where everybody is just working on something, and there's different rooms and you just
It's
it's
amazing.
just beautiful, you know what I'm saying? So but then like going back to something you said earlier about this thing called Gallup. I'm gonna check it out as soon as this is over because one of the wild things, like you said, J Live is a finisher. Sometimes I don't really feel like a finisher. I definitely have more ideas than I bring to fruition.
No doubt.
Uh, and I don't really stress it, but every now and then in the quiet moments, there's this thing called imposter syndrome that can sink in, and you start to second guess yourself a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people go through it where, we always hear in the ether or just in when people talk about business or just life in general that everybody has ideas, but it comes down to who executes them, who
Yes.
executes them the best. Like even if you go back to that Nas line, no idea is original. There's nothing new under the sun. That ain't what you do, it's how it's done, right?
Exactly.
But then like the execution is the most important part because without the execution, there's no fruition.
Mm-hmm.
But you having the self-awareness to say, okay, I might be an idea guy, but I know enough to say if I'm not the execution guy, I'm gonna make sure that the idea gets to someone that can execute. And that's
Exactly.
major. Because when you say Rawls is the executor, I already know, you know what I'm saying? Because I'll end up at a show and Rawls is there just because he's on it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll
I'm
be
on it.
booking Brazil,
Two
and
on
then
it.
I'll hear Rawls be like, yo, we're gonna bring Rawls in. I'm like, hell yeah, you're gonna bring Rawls in. You know what I'm saying? Like, well,
Yes.
like I'm in Germany. It's like,
Roll
yo,
on it, Jay. We'll get off a call, plan to meet like next week Thursday, and he's already typed me notes about that meet. I'm like,
that's
bruh,
dope,
next week Thursday, and I love
man.
him for it. But it's like how my brain works sometimes. It's like, bro, I can't even think about that today because I got to think about all these. And he's just like, yo, let's get it done. And I love it because it grows me to that mindset, and it's
Yeah,
like when you're around that enough. That's why I call you a finisher because the reason I say that is because of what we do. I know your beginnings. I know that, yeah, you work with labels that had teams on the indie tip, and it wasn't you doing all the work. But once that transition came, your back's against the wall. You got to make it happen. You know what to do to bring it
yeah,
all together. You know how to communicate to the outsource team to help and Voltron it up to make it happen. And to me, that's what a finisher is, where you
indeed,
know
indeed. But I
what
mean,
it takes to get it done.
yeah, but like just in terms of people out there that feel like they're not executing on their ideas, it's just one nothing before its time, right?
Word.
I think Eric Thomas talks about, when you want it like you want to breathe. I think there was like he tells a story about somebody holding somebody underwater and like, like them struggling underwater trying to get up. And then he came up and he's like, look, when you want to win the way you wanted to breathe underwater, that's when you'll do what you need to do to make it happen.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So a lot of times, I'll look at fruition and execution like, okay, I'm doing something. Something's getting done.
No doubt.
If it's not ideas L through W. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It might be ideas, D through J that are getting done, but it's like I'm gonna make sure that whatever needs to get done for right now gets done. But then
Absolutely.
you always kind of feel weird in the back of your mind, like all the stuff that you're not doing, which is why I love this a book I always refer people to by a writer named David Allen. It's called Getting Things Done. It's the art of stress free productivity,
Yeah.
and he has this whole system where it's like GTD because his thing is, your brain is for having ideas, not for holding them.
Mm.
So write everything down and organize it in such a way that you can put it away so that everything that you're doing is what you feel like you're supposed to be doing, and you don't have in the back of your mind, I wonder all the stuff I'm not doing. No, I don't have to wonder what I'm not doing. I already wrote it down. It's over there. I can thumb through it if I want
Yeah, man.
and pick something from it if I want, but I can keep my mind on the task at hand because I've written it down. You know what I'm saying? So like I love that book for that reason. It really saved me in a lot of times where that you'll have that imposter syndrome that kicks in, and a lot of times it's just a matter of organizing your thoughts. And like we started this conversation, uh recognizing what there's gratitude for. You know what I'm saying? When you write down what you're grateful for, that's something that I'm working on now. Like I was talking to my kids about that the other day too. Like it's one thing to know that there's a certain confidence that comes with being grateful because you don't have time to feel sorry for yourself when you're thankful for things.
Exactly.
But when you write it down, there's power in that because words and thoughts are things in that regard. So and just taking that time to commit to writing it down is something that I'm working on now. But in my head, it's like one of those things. It's like, nah, this is important because when we have our moments of, for lack of a better word, darkness or whatever, it's like, no, you can keep that balance from knowing you're never as bad as your worst. You're never as good as your best. You got to stay humble and balanced and even keeled,
Totally.
but always be mindful of, yeah, I got stuff that I'm working on, but I'm not starting from scratch. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like they used to say, yeah, I was born at night, but not last night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So word up,
Ah,
man.
that's. I feel like this is the spirit of what brought us here.
Yeah, this is
Well,
exactly what brought us here. This 52 pickup. Are
yeah.
we all over the place right now?
Yeah.
So man, we should probably end it on that note, man, because it'll mess around and be like a 4 hour thing.
Nah, I was gonna say we got plenty more, gems to
Exactly,
drop and
exactly.
pick up and share and learn from. But if you're tuned in and you're hearing it thus far, we rock with you specifically.
No doubt, no doubt.
And yeah, our goal with this primarily is to build more amongst each other, but more so just allow you all to be flies in the walls on conversations that hopefully resonate with you, hopefully inspire you, hopefully you feel connected to because, we're speaking to our peers, we're speaking to our ALX, we're speaking to, men and women out there around the world who resonate with a lot of the different things culturally, spiritually, you know, mentally, etc. And that's what we're putting out. So
That's all it is, man. That's all it is. And I look forward to the conversations that stem from this conversation being out in the open,
absolutely.
with whoever's checking. Um, and it's just wild that the whole idea sparked from just a random conversation,
Random
just
comment.
off of actually, if you see in the background, you got the House of Nambili pillows
Yes.
right
Yeah,
there on the couch. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of the catalyst for the whole thing.
no
So
doubt. Ah,
shout out
see.
the House of Nambili.
You know what I mean? Shout it
Man, word
out.
up, man. Just on the strength of wanting to support your peoples and the importance of black business and wanting to keep a beautiful, colorful environment and knowing that you know when I as I'm nesting here, and this is a relatively new spot for me, and it's like I need to get it a certain kind of visually comfortable So I ended up like, all right, well, you know, I gotta replace these struggle pillows.
No doubt.
And I was like, I know who got pillows.
Shout it out. Shout the love
Yo,
tonight.
so definitely came through with the flavors and already worth the investment. I'm getting ROI just off of that right there, just off of this. You know what I'm saying?
Looking
So
fresh, bro. Looking fresh.
great catching up with you, man. Looking forward to continuing this movement
Always.
and glad I could spark it and I'm glad everybody within earshot, you know, you're listening. This is the pilot, the maiden voyage of 52 pickup with John Robinson and Jay Live.
No doubt. Thanks for
All right.
tuning in. Love.
Peace.